a company-wide theme overtaking the Coffinverse in 2023.
Hey everybody, how you doing? It's your boy Brian Pulido. Welcome to Beer with Brian. This is a monthly program of the Sworn Club. If you haven't, consider joining the Sworn Club. There's a couple of cheap advantages. The first one is you get news 24 hours in advance of the general public, and you have access to about 95% of our store promotions 1 hour before anyone else. Excuse me, I got a burp. Beer with Brian is actually brought to you today by Diet Soda. So this is an informal discussion between us, and this is an opportunity for you to ask any questions that you would like pertaining to our business, which is we make comic books. I also like to talk about pop culture. So let's see here. What is the real pop culture thing that was going on? Well, over the weekend, I saw a movie on Netflix called The Perfection. It's arguably a horror film. It's very difficult for me to kind of boil it down. The type of horror film that I enjoy mostly are eerie things where there's like an invasive species or just this creepy thing that represents death. So I like zombies. Mainly I like zombies, right? But I like anything like things like witches and ghosts and werewolves. You know, they're too recognizable. I just like the specter of death. So I like movies like Carnival of Souls, She Dies Tomorrow. A great one I love, sort of a divisive horror film, is called It Comes at Night. But I love these films. So The Perfection is a horror film, but it takes place in the world of world-class cellists. And I don't know, what can I say? It might have a little to do with, anybody out there see the movie The Audition? I believe it was a Japanese film. And it's strong stuff. So I don't want to say too much about it. Would I recommend it? I recommend it or not with this proviso. I'm sometimes a sort of horror fan where I want to see most horror films, so at least I can have an opinion about it. Would I watch it again? I don't think I'd watch it again. Was it well made? Was it good? Did it have a nice ending? Yes, but it was hard to watch at times. Some very, very sharp, horrific stuff going on. A lot of emotion, high key. Anyway, I'm getting carried away with that non-review of the movie, but if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer. Let me know.
Well, first off, there's a comment from Eric Hart saying, I'm loving that shirt.
Hey, Eric, thanks. So this is by a local Phoenix company called Rebel Reaper, Feast Your Eyes. It's kind of got like a lot of stuff that we all like, skulls and dice and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, fun one. Thanks.
Okay, here's a big one from Dan here. Just finished my 5th reading through the Coffinverse.
Okay, thank you. Wow, cool. Oh, you went? Cool.
Yeah, a character I like more and more is Devilock.
I love that character.
What is your main source of inspiration for him?
So Devilock, the character, he does have a story in development. Mike and I would call that a 96-page story, and we have the whole thing outlined, and we have 48 pages of it done. Devilock is a body horror story, and fundamentally what body horror asks, or its main proposal is, why is my body failing me? So in real life, we have our own version of that, which is sickness, things like cancer, heart attack. Why is my body failing me? But in body horror, it's done to great exaggeration. And for me, one of the best body horror movies of all time is David Cronenberg's remake of The Fly, starring Jeff Goldblum. It's absolutely amazing. It's tragic. So true story, the Devilock comic, it's sad. I mean, it's a horror film story, and it's sad. Johnny Devlin is the son of a female cult leader, and she really uses her son as a prop because he has these certain properties which are greatly expanded in the story. So Johnny Devlin is a character whose body absolutely betrays him. His body is a conduit to another dimension, and in that dimension are these horrific creatures. The whole planet is populated by him, and they come through him, or they come in and out. And he actually, in the story, as the story goes, particularly in the beginning, does not have much control over. So thank you for enjoying Johnny's little pieces we've shown, and we hope one day to tell you his entire story.
Jeff is asking, can you tell us more about the new HQ?
Well, yes. So the new HQ is not far from current HQ, which is great. It will be 2.5 times the size of current HQ. And the dominant architectural design of this series of buildings, this campus of buildings, is Italian Gothic. So the exterior has a shake roof, a lot of Italian Gothic details in the lighting and the chandeliers inside, all that kind of stuff. And we're definitely going to lean in on that. So you're going to see us bringing in sort of Gothic-y fonts in some of the signage. And in a sense, it has a lot of the rooms that current HQ has, but they will be greatly expanded. There will be a much larger area for us for the warehouse and fulfillment. We will now have our off-site warehouse on-site. So it's a separate building that's in the property. The Pulido archive will be greatly expanded. For example, the crypt, which is Jimmy Coffin's office, along with others, will be about 4 times its size. We double use our current archive also as a production area where we present a lot of our Kickstarters and stuff. In the new building, we're going to have a completely dedicated, close to 2,000 square feet, just to stage all of our promotions and our live videos and our ability to kind of let them stay there and not get in the way. What people don't see with our current HQ is it is definitely a multi-use place, but we set things up, we take things down almost every day. Like when we have company, we reset. So in a sense, in many areas, we won't have to do that as much. Also, the actual campus itself, which we're going to have inside beautiful wrought iron fences, we're going to have a little bit more of that kind of a hangout area. We'll be able to have more like patio and outdoor living space as well. It's kind of funny though, because we're all hardworking, and that outdoor living space will be for when we invite folks in. The company store will be about 2.5 times the size. So just generally, we're currently occupying 4,000 square feet. We have approximately 2,000 square feet of offsite warehouse. We're able to combine these things into this new space, which is right under 10,000 square feet grand total. So that's a little bit more. Now, I guess the other things, we are ambitiously looking to move out of our current HQ, October, November, move over to HQ, get warehouse and fulfillment working. Before then will be all the build outs, all the changes, and all the surprises, because there's going to be many surprises. I'm keeping some cool stuff in my pocket. For anyone who's visited HQ, you know that we have cool build outs in different rooms. Like, for example, we have King Skull right here. So you could expect all the folks who contributed to this great work returning, and we have a lot of plans for the new building. We have more space. We have more opportunity to put up art, etc. And the crazy thing is we're looking to do everything that I'm talking about before SwornFest 2024, which is February 23rd, 4th, and 5th, 2024. So we kind of know what we're doing between now and then. It's like it's the road to SwornFest already. So that's a little bit more about HQ, and expect plenty of surprises too.
Stolen Zombie is saying, from the Lady Death and Zombie Tramp video, is it now canon that Lady Death's name is Hope Blackwell?
Well, this is the way I see it. So we've always known her name is Hope, but we announced that in the current continuity, we've announced Matthias, her father's last name, as Blackwell. So I think Lady Death's last name is Blackwell. I think we finally slipped it out there, Hope Blackwell. Now, the only thing we haven't done is name the wolves, so, but maybe read Lady Death chapter 18 and see what happens there.
Matt is asking for a lowdown on the Mad Monster experience last weekend.
Well, my experience at Mad Monster was pretty cool. We were also set up to promote Tucson Comic-Con and some of the horror guests that we have attending Tucson Comic-Con. So we had what's called a promotional table. But what was really good about that is that made me have vendor access. So my experience of Mad Monster completely happened before the doors ever opened. So I was able to reconnect with friends like Bill Moseley. You know Bill as Chop Top in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, obviously in Rob Zombie's entire series, Devil's Rejects, House of a Thousand Corpses. But I know Bill as a friend because he was in a movie of mine called The Graves. So got to reconnect with Bill. Also, I was able to connect with an artist that I admire that I would like to use for our Mike Moore storyline, which debuts in September of 2024. And yeah, I got to collaborate with a lot of other folks here in the Phoenix area, Maricopa County, for further collaboration and marketing and promotion opportunities, particularly for Tucson Comic-Con and for our horror guests there that include Chandler Riggs from The Walking Dead. So I was kind of in and out, I guess, right? So I think I got there at 9 on Saturday, and I was out the door by 1 because I was going to a friend of mine's 50th birthday bash also. So it was short, but it was sweet. I met the woman who starred in the movie It Challenged the World from the 50s. I reconnected with a lot of friends that I usually only see at cons like that. People, I call them pop culture barnacles, you know, people like Scott Monster from Asylum Records. So friends and stuff, a lot of that kind of stuff, just connected with friends and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, my experience was really cool.
Nocturnal is asking, in Cybernetic Desecration, we saw quite the hookups.
Yeah, that's true.
What was the process of pairing certain characters with others? Is it random?
Well, it's not random. It's a story that's written and it has architecture. So yeah, it was just a lot of fun to create that world, you know, because it's not our reality, but it does have some surviving characters from our reality. And we're obviously seeing this story from a certain time period, but it really was my job to figure out what was happening all before so that when you would see characters be married or hooking up, that it kind of made some sort of sense and some sort of logic. And I'm definitely teasing you, but you think you've seen it all. You haven't. Wait till you read number 18. There's just like a lot more pairings that will be quite surprising to you, I think.
Death Metal Heroes, agreeing with you. The Fly is fantastic.
Fantastic body horror film, you know. Any of those movies where your body betrays you. The movie Scanners is another one where Michael Ironside has this ability to kind of like change. Or Videodrome. Videodrome was nasty too. Remember a person pulled a gun out of their gut? Like, it's crazy. So look, I think, you know, in real life, all of us have had someone in our life somewhere where their body betrays them. You know, cancer, heart attack, diabetes, you know, a limb has to come off, something. And that's what I call the betrayal of the body. And I think that's what body horror is exploring. So for sure, that's what Devilock is really about.
Mike is asking, when do you think you might start announcing artists for Swornfest 2024?
I think that we're going to start announcing artists in mid-September. Yeah, that's what we're planning to. Right now, it's the road to Comic-Con International. Then right after that, most of us here at Coffin Comics are working or partaking somehow in Tucson Comic-Con, which is the convention we own. And even now, don't worry, all the deals are in place. You know who's coming, but we'll start the reveals in September. I guess I could do one reveal right here. You can count on Brian Pulido guesting at Swornfest. I will definitely guest at Swornfest.
Oh yeah, Rick is mentioning that he thinks Devilock reminds him of The Thing as well. Yeah,
so for sure, yeah, The Thing, that interesting, this amorphous alien that attempts to look like us, and it's grappling with it. Yeah, there's a lot in the recipe. There is a wonderful Stephen King short story. Its name escapes me, but it's super creepy, and it's about the present day of an astronaut who actually went out into space and came back from another dimension. And unbeknownst to everybody, he brought a life form from another dimension, and it's residing in his body, and it's causing him, it's sort of taking control, and it's viewing things in a very primitive fashion. So almost everything to it is a threat, because this alien life form that's in his body, human beings frighten him, they're freaking him out. But this thing is, you know, it's a devastating monster. And again, I wish I recall the name of, man, it's a creepy one. It's never been made into a film, like a feature film. a lot of what they call the Stephen King dollar babies, people have attempted to make this as a short film. I don't think people have achieved the creepiness of that story, and that I was using that kind of as a guiding light as well, along with, the great structure they have in Cronenberg's The Fly, but just the eeriness of this Stephen King short story. It's remarkable.
Mark wants to know, any consideration for a La Muerta coin?
Tell you what, yes, I commit to a La Muerta coin for Chapter 10 of La Muerta, which will be offered in May of 2024. Yes.
Dave wants to know, what's the plan for the current HQ, since we have the...
The current HQ will either be leased to a business or we will sell the building. And we love it. And it'll be heartbreaking because we've made so many memories here. But this is what I also will say is I think we're going to stage HQ to a point of perfection. And then we're going to do a super intimate, super detailed video tour and photo tour. And then we're going to somehow find a way to put it up in the metaverse where people can really experience it three-dimensionally for all time. Because look, we've been here for close to 7 years, and this place is amazing. And, so many of you that are out there made this possible for us. And we adore it. And we love it. And yet it was a chapter. So we do want to perfect it. I would also say it's very likely that we're going to have a farewell party for HQ. The last possible day that it's in its perfected state before we have to start taking everything and moving everything down the block. So I think those are the destinies of this current HQ.
Yeah, Dane is saying he's going to miss the old HQ, not going to lie. But growth is important, though, so he's probably be a fan and to be a part of the whole experience.
Oh, yeah, Dane. Yeah, look, we wouldn't have purchased a new building. The additional space is cool, but I think once you see it, maybe this new HQ, that's what we're calling it right now, is like the actual expression of Coffin Comics. Like this thing is, it's an Italian Gothic campus of building. It's crazy looking.
Eric is asking, regarding the cover that Paulo did, has that affected any working relationship with him? Or?
Well, I think I've said everything that I've said about the Paulo circumstance in my posts. But what I will say is that during the entire process, I was in communication with Paulo, and I was always speaking to Paulo first. Nothing that I concluded came out as a surprise to Paulo. And I guess that's about what I'd like to say about that. But I will also say this is that prior to my doing new comics, using crowdfunding as a way of kind of getting the word out, I used to do conventions quite a lot, like up to 25 a year. And Paulo was also on that same trajectory. So he and I grew close, and I have a lot of warm feelings about Paulo. Paulo did the first Coffin Comics premiere cover for Chaos Rules. And what I do hope for Paulo is that he goes back to using his own work in particular, and that he improves the quality of his working relationships with his peers, and reinvents himself by just kind of going back to who he authentically is. So, but just that yes, I've been in touch with Paulo the whole time. Nothing was a surprise. I would speak to him first before I explain. Just try to be transparent and upfront with everybody on all phases of the circumstance.
Scott saying a HQ farewell party would be awesome.
Well, it's going to happen. Well, I don't know what else to tell you. Do you think Coffin Comics needs an excuse for a party? We don't. It's Friday. Let's party.
Rick here saying he was abused as a kid, and Brian, thank you so much for Evil Ernie, because while he was an anti-hero to me as a reader, but his creation really helped me stand up for myself. So.
Thank you so much. That's great. I think that's something that you guys and gals out there get that the outside world will never understand. Like, I've gotten hate mail from principals and say, this is garbage. You're warping people's mind. This is diseased. But I realize that they just simply don't understand, and that the work that, I've been proud enough to do really does communicate. So when I hear that, it's amazing. It's mission accomplished for me. And thank you. I'm happy that, there's an ability to relate to this stuff and that, brings people a little joy, because that's really the mission. So thank you for sharing it.
Stolen Zombie wants to know, any writing tips for beginners?
I do have some writing tips for beginners, and some of it's going to sound so simple, and I'm not trying to be a jerk, but I mean, every story should have a beginning, middle, and end, not necessarily in that order. For most people, the second act is a mystery, but there's a lot of structure inside it. I believe this is my belief, I'm pro plot and plan in terms of writing. And then there's certain writers that are into discovery. I think there's a name for it. I don't know exactly what it is, where it's like they just start writing and they discover. I believe in plotting, planning, and outlining. And I generally like to know my beginning, and I like to know my end for real before I start really getting into it. So that's all another way of saying that story, I believe, is architecture. So same way you wouldn't start building a building without a plan or without certain structures or load-bearing walls. Story has the same thing. Usually there's a first, second, third act. Sometimes those things can be longer or shorter. There's the very compact 90-minute movie, or there's the Quentin Tarantino. But if you look at the underlying architecture, there are plot points. That's another way of saying that I believe that as a writer, you want to get some education, and you want to read some of the preeminent educators about story broadly, so that you can begin to have a relationship to the architecture of story, and then begin developing your own idea of like what type of education or system or structure works for you. So and in general, since I write comics, I find that screenwriting education is very adaptable to comics, frankly. I mean, it works perfectly for me. So some of the writers of some of the writing education that I've read, and I swear by, would be the Sid Field screenplay book. Robert McKee wrote a book called Story. There's a man named John Truby, and he does a lot of analysis of genre. And then finally, I think his name is Blake Shelton and the Save the Cat system. So those are some of the story systems that I rely on to tell a story.
All right, got time for a couple more here questions before we wrap it up. Solomon is saying, I'm excited for Lady Death versus Zombie Tribe Kickstarter.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, what else is there to say? I'm as excited as you. I've seen Dan's work, and I know what it's all about. I mean, there's going to be the comic, which is a blast. I've read it, and I'm feeling good about it. But there's also this is just, the whole thing is a still ill production, right? So there's going to be a Lady Death body pillow, and the acrylic figures, like all the shenanigans those guys and gals are known for. We're just going to be stepping into their world. I think what's also fun for me and Francisca Pulido is that when that campaign launches, 1 week later, myself and Francisca Pulido are traveling to Detroit, Michigan to hang out with Dan and Nightmare, and we're going to go see Metallica together. So I think we're going to do a lot of lives and a lot of hanging out as we do the campaign. So I'm stoked.
Dane is saying, I can't wait to see the development of 5150.
I like 5150. He's fun.
And
He's a super smiler.
And he hopes he sticks around for the long haul.
Well, so this entire storyline is an alternative future. So the question instantaneously becomes, is there a 5150 in our world? I don't know, right? But what I can tell you is Lady Death Chapter 18, which is named Imperial Requiem, which we are launching on Kickstarter on August 9th, I think it is. That chapter has a lot of 5150, because you just saw him like at the tail end of 17, but he's like all over Chapter 18. I mean, there's going to be some good fights there too. There's like Mike Morg versus 5150, so that's two sluggers really slugging it out. These comics, Chapter 17 and 18, they are just a love letter to the 90s, and they're a love letter to like X-Men Days of Future Past, and just the amplitude and energy and excitement of 90s comics that seen through the filter of my brain. So that's where I'm coming from on these stories.
What's the name of the shirt company that you?
So this particular shirt is from a Phoenix-based company called Rebel Reaper, and they make motorcycle stuff. So they do the vests and they do cool shirts like this. And a lot of their stuff on their website, Rebel Reaper, is pretty cool. Tell them Brian Pulido sent you. I'm not a paid representative. I just discovered them, I guess, through a Facebook ad and ordered this, and I liked it. So, supporting Maricopa County-based businesses.
All right, here's the last question here.
Last question of the day.
This has come from Death Metal Hero. It's so damn cool to see your success and the rise of Coffin Comics. Curious, would you ever want to direct another film?
Well, I got to tell you, I'm getting that itch. I'm definitely getting the itch to direct another film for sure. We've loved and adore what's going on with Coffin Comics, and happy to do it for the rest of my life. But it's true, I'm a horror fan, and I think myself, Mike McLean, a friend of mine, Adam Goldfein, called me the other day, and we do kind of have the itch. So we're trying to figure out like how do you do that. Now, the interesting thing is where my heart lies with horror films. Like my material is kind of like bright and kind of wild, and it's sort of hard. It's got some comedy and it's over the top, and but if you're really making a horror film for $1 million or less, like, man, the budget on that is so different from my comics. The comics are like, the budget is infinite. But in my heart of hearts, I like really creepy horror. So Night of the Living Dead, Carnival of Souls, She Dies Tomorrow, It Follows. I love that. So that's a thing. That's where I would be headed. Some sort of personification of death, coming and coming. So in last year's horror films, I really loved the movie Smile. So that's the vibe I like. I'm less like werewolves and vampires. I just like the reminder that death is coming. That's, if we could find a new attack on that. I have a particular story that is nowhere near in proper development, but I'm trying to talk Mike McLean into jumping on board and co-writing with me, but I think that'd be the vibe we'd go for. I'd still want to involve Sworn Nation, like, come out, be an executive producer, work on this for a day, that kind of stuff, do all that stuff. But probably in my heart of hearts, that's probably the, if I only have a couple shots left at this, that's the kind of horror I love, All right, folks, I cannot thank you enough for attending this month, July's Beer with Brian, a program of the Sworn Club. Remember, join the Sworn Club if you haven't. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and doing a Q&A like this. It's just a blast hanging out with you. I'll talk to you sooner than later. Have a great day.
Swornfest, Swornfest, Swornfest. Swornfest, the global gathering for Coffin Comics fiends and the Sworn, featuring exclusive parties, artists, signings, commissions, panels, beer, food, coffee, alcohol, tours of HQV2, trading posts, CGC, friendship, community, camaraderie, shenanigans, insanity, and more. Plan ahead. Be there.
Tickets and details on sale now.